Okay. Good to go? Thanks. All right, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Hartford Selectboard on Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. Our first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to lead us this evening.
Hello.
Okay, thanks, Gail.
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Gail. All right, our next item is order of agenda. I don't see any changes. Public comment.
Just to be absolutely clear, we did post an original agenda that only had the manifest on it.
Yep.
But we were lucky and happy enough to add the tax rate and then repost in case anybody's wondering about it.
Okay, thank you, John. All right, we'll go to public comment. We'll start with people in the room and then go to those joining us. License. I don't see anyone in the room. Do we have anyone online with their hands up?
No hands up at the moment.
Okay, so we will end public comment, and our next item is to approve the AP manifest of July 1st, 2024. Everyone has any questions? You can ask John. Okay, otherwise I will take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the accounts payable manifest of July 1st, 2024.
Okay, do you have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Kim. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Our next item is setting the tax rate for FY 2025. Gail has provided a memo for us. I don't know, Gail, if you want to give us a quick summary of what this is all about. Then we can move on.
Okay, so once a year we do this. We try to do it as close to the beginning of July as we can. Because it's important that by law, we have to send out the tax bills 30 days in advance of when the first installment is due. And the first installment is August 16th. And so we were lucky enough that the state set the tax rate yesterday for the education piece of it. So we were able to put everything together and not have to have a second meeting. In your packet, you have the 25 budget, which we're going into. I gave you the information from the 2024, so you could compare that. And I think that's pretty much it. We are.
Okay. Any questions? Yeah. Not? Okay.
We will, the motion will be based on this page and not on.
The numbers that are on that page should match what's in the motion.
Excuse me, which page?
Pages 3 and 4.
I have this document, is it in here? And
Yep.
I don't see numbers on here, so I want to make sure I'm at the right place. I just saw this when I sat down. So we're at the A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah, do you have the page 2 of my memo, Sue, that's got the?
Yeah.
You got that,
I
okay.
got that.
That's the motion. And then the next page is the A, B, C, D, E.
And that's a comparison.
It's a comparison from 24 to 25. It also gives you some information about what we were estimating when we did the budget and what we used for a grand list and what we actually ended with for a grand list. And then the last part is E on the last part of the page, gives you the look back period. I did, a few years so everyone can see the increases that we've had.
Okay.
And then the very last page that you should have, I think, is the actual tax warrant, which is a longer piece of paper, or if you printed it on 8.5 by 11, it's probably short.
They're all long.
Yeah.
So,
Can I just?
yeah,
finish? Okay.
I'm still
So-
trying to sort this out.
My main question is there anything significantly different this year in terms of like increases or anything that's happened that we should be alerted to?
I don't think there's any big surprises as far as the education tax, unless you've been living under a rock for the last 6 months. We knew that it was coming and going to be increased. There was no change a minimal change in the town tax rate. We had estimated that the increase would be 7.196 and it actually came in at 7.53.
All right, thank you.
The grand list estimate actually came up a little bit short. We grand list grew by slightly less than we expected it to.
Yeah.
grew, so that will negatively impact the tax rate in that it will go up.
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
What is the school going up to?
So it's on page 3 that's got the A, B, C, D, E.
Right, I'm looking there.
And if you look at C, you'll see the third line down, education, homestead tax. If for 2025, it's going to 2.0585. It was at 17825. What does that equal for a person who owns a $250,000 home? It's $690.
So between the school and the town, we're talking 20 some odd percent raise, correct?
Correct.
15.48 plus.
Well, the overall change, if you go to that same box and see, total town education homestead tax rate, it went from 2.8646 to 3.2221, which is an overall change of 12.48%. So it's $893.75 for a town and school added together on a $250,000 home. And then non-homestead in town is $940.50.
$893.75.
Yep.
And that's over 1 year or twice a year?
It's one time. So if
1
your
year,
house
yeah.
is $250,000, that's the impact that you're going to have on it. And then obviously
Per year.
the higher you go up,
Yeah.
correct. We just have two installments, but you only pay once.
That's the increase on top of what we're already having. Correct, there's that
Correct,
on top of what we're already paying.
correct.
Any other questions for Gail?
Wow. I just wanna get my head around one more time, just because the grand list numbers are written as millions. We're suggesting it should be billion, but there's no, I mean, like, there should be another comma and zeros there if it's billion. So I think either,
It's traditional to remove those 3 zeros because of the high numbers involved with grand list numbers.
well, personally, I feel like it would be a better representation in the recorded minutes if it said billion, like, because I think, you know, a layperson looking at this it looks like 16 million and 14
Yeah, I mean,
million.
even the grand list itself that's available does not have it on it. They cut it down.
Does that have like a total grand list?
Yep, this is in my packet that I
Yeah.
have to put it together.
Um,
And it has the 14, 183, 161.
I'm
Again,
sure,
you
I'm
can-
sure it wouldn't be a problem in future years to do that.
well, I would recommend that just for the general public as well as myself as a select board member.
I just want to understand, have you always done it the way you're doing it?
Correct.
So will we create more confusion by changing it now?
Well, we could have an asterisk in that box saying grand list item has had the last 3 digits removed.
Okay, as long as you're taking the questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Because people will read that
Yeah.
either, I think they'll just be confused. But
Yeah, and I don't want to make, I mean, we came in for a special meeting because this is important and we need to do it. And so I feel like it only is going to raise questions for people who actually read it. It might not be anyone, it might be 1 or 2 people. So it doesn't, just because we've always done it a certain way, doesn't make it any more understandable.
I just don't understand why we want to change it. I've lived here since 1990, well, in this town since 1998, and that's always the way it's been, so that's what people understand.
That's how we're doing it.
Let's just change things for the sake of changing.
Why can't we just simply, to satisfy Kim and anybody that's confused, put in that box a little in parentheses saying numbers are in billions?
For the grand list.
For the
Only
grand
the
list,
grand
that would
list,
be, yes, for
not
the grand
for the-
list. That would be very
appropriation.
simple, very straightforward, and solve any issues that anybody would have. Makes sense.
Well, if we only had a $16 million grand list,
Taxes will be much higher.
we would be having
They're high enough as it is.
a
This is
bigger
ridiculous.
discussion. But I appreciate what you're saying, Kim.
Thank you.
Other questions for you? If there's none, I'll take a motion. The recommended motion is on page 2. It's a lot. So whoever wants to do it, read all that.
I don't support it. I'm not gonna say it.
Why not?
I don't support it.
Or you don't support the budget?
I'm not gonna make a motion on something I don't support.
Can I get a motion on this from someone, please?
I'm happy to move
Thank you,
well, I move that the select board approve the fiscal year 2025 general highway fund with $16,106,719 for appropriation, $14,183,161,000 for a grand list, $1.1356 for a rate, and $16,106,719 for revenue. Also, the fiscal year 2025 county tax with $97,663 for appropriation, $14,183,161,000 for a grand list, and $0.0069 for a rate, and $97,663 for revenue. Also, the fiscal year 2025 restricted appropriations with $257,988 for appropriation, $14,183,161,000 for a grand list, for a rate $0.0182, and for revenue $257,988. Also, the fiscal year 2025 local agreement rate with $41,413 for appropriation, for a grand list $14,183,161,000. For a rate $0.0029, and for revenue $41,413. Also, the total fiscal year 2025 town tax for appropriation $16,503,783. For rate $1.
Brandon, can I stop you?
Yes.
The rate listed on here is not what's on the warrant. It didn't get updated, so the appropriation is correct, and then for the rate for this one, it's supposed to be 1.1356. I apologize for that.
All right. I would ask that my motion reflects this change for the total fiscal year 2025 town tax rate being $1.1356. Thank you. And for revenue, $16,503,783. And also that the board approve a education homestead tax rate of $2.0585. An education non-homestead tax rate of $2.0977. A rate for total town and education homestead tax of $3.2221. A rate for total town and education non-homestead tax of $3.2613. And a total appropriation for fiscal year 24 through 2025 of $16,503,783.
Brandon, do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second from Mary. Any discussion? Okay.
I will be voting no on this. I voted no on the budget. I think that personally, everything I've seen about the spendthrift means of this select board and various departments within the town is out of hand. I understand that there are many needs in our town. The needs are great. We need to meet the needs, but the wants, I think, can definitely be addressed in a better fashion. And I really feel for many of my residents, of the town of Hartford, when they get this tax bill and see the impact this is going to have on them. We are facing a lot of potential delinquent taxes to the properties.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I screwed up. Brandon, the number is correct. It's on there for the total tax rate. It's supposed to be the 1.1636. I'm sorry. I just saw the number. I'm like, oh my goodness.
There's so many numbers.
Yes. So I'm not sure, probably if you can, before the vote's taken, can he amend that one last piece?
I think so.
I propose a friendly amendment based on this new data of the total fiscal year 2025 town tax rate being as written, which is $1.1636.
Okay, we have an amended motion.
Mary, do you
I'll
second
second the motion.
Another second for Mary. Any other discussion before we vote?
I might like to say something really quick. I too felt that it seemed like, you know, quite a large increase compared to other increases in several years past. I've been experiencing a similar thing in the house building industry where folks are very surprised at the cost of building these days. And so I like to present to them kind of a cumulative inflation rate. So over the last 5 years or so, cumulative inflation has been something like 24%. You know, it's like compounding interest. Everything adds on the last thing that came. So if we're thinking about folks who really have a hard time staying in their homes because of the rising tax rate, my thought was to remove the what was inflation in these years. When you remove housing, remove that from the equation of inflation, and usually it's about 40% actually, because inflation of housing is so much. But I played it conservative and did about 33%. So in my calculations in this time period here, 2020 to 2024 calendar years, the inflation rate cumulatively without housing involved is something like 17%. Oh, I'm so sorry, 14%. And I also did the cumulative rate for what the town's tax rates have been, and that was 17%. So all that to say, we are basically tracking very close to inflation with this increase. A little bit more, something like 20% more than the rate of inflation cumulatively over these years when you discount housing. So for that reason, I don't think it's horrific. If you count housing like we probably should, if we're thinking of the town employees who have to largely have to pay for housing, right? Renters, et cetera. You know, this is well under that rate. So I do support it so that we can keep paying our people enough to live.
Any other comments before we vote? John?
Yeah, I'll just point out that what we're doing tonight is simply raising the sufficient revenues to fund the budget that was approved comfortably by the voters at town meeting. The new variable, of course, is state education spending, over which the town has very little control.
John, any other comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, vote is 5-1. And next, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a second.
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.